Welcome to section 6, where we are going to learn how to debug and test our application. Let's start by learning how to deal with breakpoints and Xcode behaviors. Before we start, I would like to mention that the project we are going to use is cloned from GitHub. You can see the URL on screen. Initially, I thought about showing how to clone for users that never had done it before. But besides that it was out of the scope of this video, the video got too long. So, clone and open the project, as we are going to start with breakpoint conditions. Once the project is open, expand the resource folder. Here, we have a file called resourceloader.swift. Clicking on the gap between the left panel and the code generates a breakpoint. Clicking again doesn't remove the breakpoint, it just disables the breakpoint. For removing the breakpoint, just click and drag. Now let's see the breakpoints in practice. Just add one breakpoint at the tile set function, and run the app with the combination Command R. Start the game as if you were going to play. Before the game begins, the debugger will pop up. On the bottom, we have the variable panel. Imagine we want to stop when the variable called name has the value fire large, for example. Pressing the resume button many times until we reach such value can be the intuitive option. But I wouldn't recommend it, as we can have too many values and if you don't pay attention, you can just pass through it. So, is there a better way? Of course, right-clicking on the breakpoint, we can add a condition. In our case, we have to check if the name is equal to fire large. But pay attention, if you type an invalid condition, the debugger will ignore it as if there were no conditions at all. Now we can just repeat the operation and check that the debugger will skip a few values, going straight away to our value. Great job! Now we've got a better performance when debugging. Sometimes we use the debugger for going step by step into our code. However, there are times where we just want to check if that piece of code is executed or not, with no need to stop. For adding an action to our breakpoint, right-click on it and add it again. Once the addition pops up, we can see that there is a button for adding actions. Let's click on it. From all options we have, we will select log message, but feel free to investigate the other ones as they are also very useful. In the message, we can type between @ an expression, like a variable name. I'm going to write %h after the expression for displaying the number of times this breakpoint was executed. The checkbox below is for saying, please don't stop, just write the message. Repeat the operation, and when the game starts, go to the log panel and search for your message. I confess, I should have used the log filter rather than scrolling, but you can forgive me. There is something similar to breakpoint actions. It's called behaviors. The difference is that breakpoints are related to one specific line of your code. Behaviors are related to actions, like building the app, testing it, pausing, and so on. Imagine you want to log the number of times you started the app. This case, better than using a breakpoint is using a behavior. To do it, just go to the Xcode menu, select Behavior, and then click on Edit Behaviors. When the dialog appears, you'll see a panel on the left-hand side with all the events which can have behaviors. On the right-hand side, we have the behavior themselves. In the section called Running, select the option Start. As you can see, we have options for playing sounds, notifying on the screen, and a few other options. Select the last one which says Run, and choose to select a file. Select the file included in the resource folders of this video, which basically will append a line to a log every time you run the app. Close this dialog and run the app. Return to the project folder and check that there is a file called output.log with the dates when we started the app. Of course, that it's just an example. If you want to do anything more complex, you have to do the script yourself. Last but not least, we are going to talk about the Breakpoint Navigator. There is a panel for managing the breakpoints called Breakpoint Navigator. You can reach it by clicking on the breakpoint icon on the top or by using the shortcut Command 8. An special breakpoint I would like to mention is the Swift errors, which can be activated by clicking on the plus sign on the bottom. This breakpoint will be called whenever an error is raised. This is very useful when you are trying to detect where an error comes from. I added a throw statement and removed the previous breakpoint for doing this demonstration. But don't forget to remove this throw statement after the demo. And here we have it. No breakpoints were set in this specific line. It was just caught by this Swift errors breakpoint.